Marking the end of another season of competition, the Washington, D.C. region SCCA heads just slightly northwest to the mecca of North American road racing. Indianapolis may be known for the 2.5-mile, 4-turn oval that's hosted the Indy 500 for over a century, but the infield road course has begun to etch a history of its own. While it hosted a few U.S. Grand Prix over a decade ago, in recent years, SRO America has grabbed hold of this facility and utilized it for its season-ending 8-hour endurance race with GT3 machinery. It's not 8 hours tonight, just one, but it's still an endurance round for this group of sprint racers. With nothing on the line but bragging rights, a race on the stage the scale of Indianapolis is the perfect place to finish out a season. Hi everybody, welcome to SimTV for the season finale for the WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Connor Orn. For the last race of the season, Connor, no points on the line tonight, just a fun race, this time at the Brickyard. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Excited to be here. Excited to watch this race play out. I'm very excited. I haven't seen a race here in a while, but I know they can be wild at times, and I like the field we have tonight. It should be thrilling.
It's going to be a lot of fun. The golf course, middle of the racetrack, a beautiful sight to see here. The weather a bit cloudy today on this racetrack. Again, it's a 1-hour race, so it's a little bit longer than we're used to seeing here at Indianapolis. Or at least at our season here this year. Indianapolis, Indiana population is just shy of 2.4 million. Speedway constructed in 1909. It's been around for a very long time. This version of the circuit has not been around for quite so long. The original design of the oval was supposed to be 3 miles long. They had to downscale it to fit the area of property that it now resides in. And obviously this road course has been updated since iRacing has laser scanned it. New version is in production and will be released sometime in 2022. Qualifying underway for our 1-hour race here tonight, Connor, and we've got just over 20 cars. They are all GT3 spec machines. What does that mean? Well, we're looking at a big field of Lamborghinis, Porsches, and Ferraris, and not much else. Those three were the popular choices tonight.
Yeah, we came in tonight with the opportunity to maybe have 7 or 8 different brands, but only really the popular ones. I know the Lamborghini had a setup for it, so everyone kind of gravitated to that one. So we see a lot of Lamborghinis tonight, along with the Porsches that we've seen so much of this season in GT4 class. Some Ferraris here and there. Brian McRae and Morgan Burkhart in 2 of those. There's a Lacey in another one, but other than that, really not much other representation.
Yeah, and again, I think that just came down to the tail end of the season. Everyone's just here for fun, so if someone provided a setup for one of the faster cars, they're all going to roll with that. The other thing you'll notice is that the popular cars, the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the Lamborghini are all brand new here in iRacing. The Ferrari, of course, the Evo generation that just came out a couple of months ago. Same for the Porsche, same for the Lamborghini, so all those relatively new cars. And I think that's basically it. There's no other manufacturer, no Mercedes, no McLaren, I think no BMWs either, which is a bit of a surprise. But all things said and done, we've got a field of over 20 cars going for 60 minutes here at Indianapolis. Matt Waldbaum currently on provisional pole. Andrew Pilata runs second in the Porsche 911 GT3R. Ken Hausiel runs in third at the moment. Mike Leader and Jack Chrissy round out the rest of your top 5. Then Robert Porter in this very attractive-looking Ferrari 488 Evo. That's the number 136. He's been trending inside the top 10 for most of practice as well.
Yeah, he's looking very consistent, had some really strong times and a lot of consistency so far from practice, carrying over into qualifying, and he's got pretty good times. He's up to 7th on another fly right here. He's about, I would say, 9/10 of a second off of provisional pole for Matt Waldbaum right now, but he's trying to get a little bit better here while warm up the tires, see what he can do this time, Brian.
You'll note that we're utilizing the oval turn 1. Again, as I mentioned, this configuration of the racetrack is no longer utilized in the real world, mostly due to the load that is put on the tires on the cars that are not used to running on ovals on banking with this degree of speed. So the track has since added a section down in turn number 1, at least on the oval side. And this is actually sort of the layout that remains now. This is the moto configuration on this version, but that's kind of what ended up being utilized for the new construction of the newer circuit a couple of years ago. So we're running the oval turn 1, so a lot of high speed heading down the front straightaway. Connor speeds just shy of 170 miles an hour off into turn 1. This is a very fast circuit. It's a very flat circuit. That leads to a lot of late braking and dive bombs because there's not a lot of good sight lines around here. You spend a lot of your time sort of hunting to find apexes and braking markers. Just not a lot here in this landscape in the infield.
Yeah, you really don't have a lot to work with. You really just have to reference the drivers in front of you if you even can. You really have to be very cautious under braking. Although we do still see dive bombs, especially in turn 1, as we'll probably talk about later in this stream. You got to see a lot of, you got to conserve a lot because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if there's going to be a wreck in front of you, and if there is one, you're not going to be able to see it because it's probably 5 or 6 cars up, and you just don't have the peripheral vision to see that. So you have to be very conservative under braking. You have to just really bide your time into corners, especially when you're all stacked up like we're going to be at the beginning of this race.
Another thing you'll note is a lot of drivers struggling with this flat circuit and the low grip levels that come with it. Seen a lot of drivers lose control in those kind of medium speed corners where you don't have the downforce piled on the car. You're relying a lot on the mechanical grip of the car and some of the traction control components as well, and that can be a challenging factor. A lot of the cars we ran this season, Connor, GT4 cars, a little bit less power, a bit more mechanical grip as opposed to these GT3s. So this is going to be a tough change for a couple of drivers tonight.
It's definitely going to be something interesting to know if we see the same drivers from the GT4 class rise to the occasion in the GT3 class. It's obviously a bit of a smaller field tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if you might see a few drivers from GT4 that were good in the GT4 cars maybe struggle a little bit not getting the handle of this more difficult GT3 car.
Ryan Christoph wheeling the number 46 Lamborghini right now. There's a good look at one of the corners we're going to talk about. The track limit over here at the exit of onto the back straightaway. Everything to the right of this DRS sign to the outside is basically a no-go zone. You can essentially utilize everything up to the sign, and past that you're going to get yourself an iRacing slowdown. That's really the only track limit you'll have to concern yourself with tonight.
It's really a tough one to kind of gauge yourself on because you want to push so hard out of that corner because, in your mind, in a split second, you're thinking, oh, I have all that room to the left side. I'm going to use it all, but you can't. But even though after, probably a few incidents, you can't do that, you still want to do that because maybe you're pushing to pass someone or maybe just pushing to defend someone or just going for a faster lap. You're trying to use every inch you can, but it's so easy to push too hard because you have all that runoff. There's really no penalty initially for using that runoff until you're hit with the slowdown. So it's very difficult to gauge whether you're pushing the limit or not.
Well, speaking of using every inch you can, this is kind of how Seal off into turn number 7. Watch how much of the racetrack he uses all the way up and then maybe 2 inches worth of the grass on corner entry. He's using every inch of the available racing surface to try to go fast here in qualifying. Just over 6 minutes remaining, and how Seal is 4th on the timesheet right now. Matt Waldbaum is currently still at the top of the order in this number 1 car, and in quite the livery, I would say, basing this off of the ship that got stuck in the canal earlier this year. Certainly an inspiring livery, perhaps. There's another driver out here that's got something similar. I was trying to find which driver it was, but we'll have that get pointed out to us a little bit later. There's some other really good liveries around the field, very stylish Lamborghinis, and I'm also a fan of Andrew Pallada's Porsche scheme here.
Yeah, it's, very awesome. His schemes in GT4 were absolute bangers as well, and this is no different. Very special.
And Pallada right now just shy. You see him wiggle there at the exit of turn 7. Just shy of Matt Waldbaum's 124.37, 84 thousandths of a second off and trying to go a little bit quicker. And really at the exit of that infield section, you're essentially flat out now as you climb up onto the banking here. And we'll watch the bottom right as the speeds climb. You should be north of 160 by the time you get to the start-finish line, maybe pushing 170 plus in the draft.
Kind of an interesting entry to oval turn 1 that he took there. Very shallow. I would have expected a bit of an arc, but not sure. We'll see if he gets close to 170 entering the corner. Looks like he got about the 166 before he had to brake for this one. A very interesting curve, by the way. We don't really see that on the current layout in real life, but that curve in a turn 1 is very dangerous if you hit it too much on the car.
Yeah, it's really sharp and tall. And actually, Ken Alsealer, you see, he actually misses it. You don't really want to utilize that curve a whole lot. A lot of the rest of the rumble strips around here are fairly flat and usable, which is actually in contrast to how it is. The curbs have all gotten redone on the newer layout of the racetrack. So that will change the racing lines and things when we get the rescan version next year. But for now, you're going to run all over them with the exception of that turn 1 curb, like you mentioned. Jack Chrissy in the Flying Lizard Motorsports livery. That's a very classic-looking Porsche. Right now in 3rd quick. And that's interesting because we've got, looks like, what's Caleb running? He's running a Lamborghini. So 3 Lambos and 2 Porsches in the top 5. Pretty even split between those 2 manufacturers at the top of the order, which I'm not really sure we've got a clear advantage one car over the other. I think the cars were just chosen based on their ease of jumping into, on what setups were provided to the community, not so much based on their pace. Otherwise, we'd see probably some more of those BMWs. And I actually think the car to have here would have been the Mercedes.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to not see any Mercedes. I know a lot of drivers that run endurance racing tend to go with the Mercedes. It's just an easier car to handle and set up, and you can kind of send it a little bit more, in my opinion. So it's just something that I expected, but we didn't get it. The more popular cars, the Porsche and the Lamborghini, which I believe is one of the newest ones. So obviously people might flock to that one just because of the novelty of it. A lot are really struggling.
Despite the Mercedes looks and sounds, it's actually an extremely nimble car, and it actually generally runs better on these flatter, more technical circuits than some of these other cars that are built for a bit more high-speed stability and straight-line speed. Andrew Pilata does go faster than Matt Waldbaum and puts himself on provisional pole by just about 13 thousandths of a second. We'll see if Waldbaum is going to try to jump back out there and run a little quicker, and he will. And the car that we were expecting to share a livery, that is Mike Leader in the 53 that has a similar coat of paint on his Lamborghini.
I just don't think he had he didn't have the courage to put the logo on the front. That's all that was.
Courage, we'll call it that.
Lack of a better term.
Todd Rushing right now 9th in that silver and red Porsche 911 GT3R. Just 2 minutes left on the clock. That means that everyone out on the track will essentially get one more run at it. You get just shy of 1:30 laps around here. And there's only about half the field on the racetrack. 21 drivers have taken times. I don't think Brandon Hook is going to run tonight, so he's just kind of lingering in the pit lane. And there's Matt Waldbaum now in the slipstream also of Robert Porter, and that could prove to be helpful here on that long front straightaway run, as long as Porter does not impede his progress on his flying lap.
Yeah, we'll have to see how much this helps. I'm trying to look at other drivers trying to get out of the pits at the very last second. Looks like Darian Taggart's going to try to be one of the last few to put a single lap in. No one else relates at the pits.
Yeah, if you don't leave the pits by now, it's game over. You're not going to get another opportunity. So up onto the front straightaway, Robert Porter is going to lead Matt Waldbaum. Porter trying to break into the top 5. Waldbaum trying to go up into the top spot once again. 1 minute left here in qualifying.
The speed difference is a few miles per hour between Porter and Waldbaum. Waldbaum about 3 miles per hour faster than him right now. He's going to hit 170, so it's going to be huge for the slipstream, but it's not going to be good if he catches Porter at the wrong time.
Yeah, here's Waldbaum now chasing Porter through the infield. Issues for Brandon Hook. That's why he's here but not competing. He'll have to be on the sidelines tonight. Having that Brandon watching, at least he'll get to enjoy the race somehow. Not necessarily in it, but watching from the virtual grandstands here. On board with Matt Waldbaum, big lateral slide through turn 4 for Porter. And provided Porter's going to bail, that was about as good as it's going to get for Waldbaum. I think he would have liked him to bail at the end of this straightaway so he could utilize the slipstream one more time. But I don't know. I think you're going to take the tires another lap or two to warm up. I'm not sure that you can go quick on your first flyer, but he's certainly going to give it a go.
This is not going to be just his first flyer. I think it's going to be his only one. About 10 seconds left. This is going to be pretty much it for Waldbaum and everyone else who hasn't gotten to the line. Yeah,
definitely will be it. I think he's just trying to go quicker than his previous best, which was a 1:24.375. Andrew Pilata on provisional pole as the checkered flag waves from the start line. Last couple of corners for the last few drivers that are out on the racetrack. Can Matt Waldbaum go quicker and retake provisional pole, a 1:24.572? No. He will not. Ken House-Seal is going to hit pit lane, and there's only a few more drivers remaining on track. And with that, qualifying is complete, and Andrew Pilata steals pole late in the session. What a drive there. That was really impressive to steal that pole by 13 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, it's pretty much been all Waldbaum. He dominated at the Hungaroring, and he's looked very strong in practice, and he was looking strong in qualifying. Pilata just barely got him there by about 13/1000ths of a second, so very close between the top two. Also, the top three, Jack Chrissy was not too far off as well, so those three really separate themselves from the rest of the field in this Q session.
Well, let's go back to the Hungaroring because you brought it up. That was our last points round of the season. What a challenge it was for anybody to make passes there. That was one of the big topics of discussion, was how challenging it was to gain track position. I don't see that being a huge issue here today, Connor. I think the name of the game is going to be attrition, not from a crashing perspective, just from staying on course. This is going to be a challenge. The track is very slippery. This race is long enough that I think everyone will get an opportunity to make a mistake, and the driver that makes the least mistakes and who starts closest to the front is going to be in the best position to win our season-ending race here in 2021. The next season of action for the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League will return to SimTV in 2022. The last finishing touches on that schedule are getting into the system, and you'll find out shortly what those changes and decisions are. Different cars, different tracks, but still very much in the vein of what the DC SCCA has done the last couple of years here on SimTV. Checkered flag out, and Darian Taggart, the last straggler to come off track. He will qualify in 15th place. And now we'll see if the weather's going to lighten up. It's been really cloudy so far in the session. And as things change over, not much different. We'll head down to the racetrack and quick look at the weather information on the far right of the screen here, Connor. Track temp is 82, low humidity as well, and just a bit of a breeze out of the south. A pretty mild day, all things considered.
Yeah, that wind breeze won't help your drive on the whole in the infield, but that's not the point here. The point is racing. But one thing I wanted to note, you talked about how every driver is going to have an opportunity to make mistakes, and a driver with the least mistakes will probably win the race. We did see that at Watkins Glen, a 45-minute race. We saw plenty of mistakes from the front guys. Seemed like the only one who didn't make a big mistake was Andrew Pilata, but he did make a big mistake in lap traffic that let DJ Alessandrini get around him. Alessandrini made his fair share of mistakes. We also saw Paul Darling, take a spin in the bus stop and cost himself the win, even though he looked to be one of the fastest, if not the fastest, that night. So we got 15 more minutes than we did here. And we'll have to see if any drivers just make too many mistakes. We saw that a lot at Watkins Glen, mistake after mistake. And it's a track you can easily make mistakes. Seems like an easy track, but easy to make mistakes at a track like this. I think this track is a little bit of a different challenge, so we'll see if these drivers are up to the task.
Different challenge, certainly. As the field gets on the racetrack here, we're going to have a full pace lap. And one of the things I like about full pace laps, Connor, gives you the opportunity to warm up your tires and brakes all the way before you take the green flag. And I highly recommend that you do that. We saw Matt Waldbaum go several tenths slower than the maximum possible speed of that GT3 car because the tires weren't fully up to temp just yet. So you're going to want to take this opportunity on the pace lap to kind of weave around, get some heat in the brakes and tires so that you don't head down into turn one and find yourself looping around. I also don't think you should be that aggressive on this start, Connor. Don't drop a whole bunch of spots, but you can't win the race in the first corner, and it's a long race. 60 minutes is plenty of time to move forward.
Yeah, we're going to see all these drivers here. Yeah, actually, no, quick to note, we talked about how crucial warming up the tires is, and we're going to see that here, how much of a difference it's going to make from the Hungaroring. We saw that we only got the shortened pace lap at the Hungaroring. We saw multiple drivers spin out at the beginning of both races, so we'll have to see how much of a difference this full pace lap does. We didn't see much first lap crashing at Watkins Glen. I don't expect to see too much here, but I think this run in turn one is much more difficult and probably a little bit more scary than Watkins Glen, because you got about, visibly, from a driver's standpoint, you got 4 to 5 lanes on the front stretch. That's going to shorten up to barely 2.
Yeah, the turn one here is incredibly narrow and incredibly treacherous, and the straightaway is so inviting to go 3 and 4 wide. If you're mid-pack or back of the pack, expect to come to a full and complete stop down in turn one, because that's the way things sort of pan out. Formation lap right now on the left-hand side of the screen. Here's your starting lineup. Andrew Pilata, Matt Waldbaum on that front row. Pilata in a Porsche, Waldbaum in a Lamborghini. Jack Chrissy will start in third in another one of the Porsches. In fourth, it'll be Ken Alseal in a number 23. That is a Lamborghini. Caleb Patry starts in fifth. That is a Porsche as well. Todd Rushing in sixth in the number 4 Lamborghini. Then Robert Porter in a Ferrari. Mike Leader, Morgan Burkhardt, and Will Robbins round out the rest of your top 10. Then it's Louis Alessi in the 43. Wojtek Hajicek, Adam Kobach, Tala Sadiq, Darian Taggart, Brian McRae, Ryan Christoph, Chris Harp, David Thompson, Giancarlo Schooler, and Jonathan Crane, wrapping up the rest of your 21-car field. So this race will be approximately 43 laps. It will be almost exactly 60 minutes. That's the time that will go up here on the board in just a moment. And again, there's nothing on the line here other than bragging rights. This is a non-points race just for fun at the tail end of the season. That doesn't mean that anyone's going to try any less hard to win this. Trust me, I don't think you need to dangle points, dollars, or trophies on the line to get people to race hard here in iRacing. And
especially in the WDCR region, that's for sure.
Yeah, they give it their all. All SCCA members in the region as we come out of the final corner. And time to go racing at the Indianapolis road course. Green flag flies, and we're racing for the last race of the season in the DC region SCCA Virtual Racing League as they storm down to turn 1, 3 abreast in the middle of the pack, and Pilata goes to cover defensive Jack Chrissy up the inside. That's the Flying Lizard car on the inside there as we get down to turn number 1. So far, so good. Everybody's made it through there, Connor.
I don't know how they did, but they did it. Looked like Waldbaum really didn't want to give up that second position. He really defended hard on Jack Chrissy, and it paid off. Oh, Chrissy's wide, and he's going to spin all on his own.
Yeah, Jack Chrissy's going to spin down the order. That's a cold tire situation, and he will drop all the way to dead last. That is tragic for his run with such a strong start, at least through the first sector. There's Giancarlo Schooler. He's up a couple spots. But out front, Andrew Pilata leads the way onto the backstretch for the first time. Matt Waldbaum second, then Caleb Patry in the number 598. I thought I said that was a Porsche. That's actually a Lamborghini running in third, followed by Ken House-Seal. Then Robert Porter in a Ferrari. There's a car serving a slowdown. That's Adam Koback on the back straightaway.
It's the first person to get bitten by one of those penalties. It didn't look like it was on that corner, though. Not sure where he got that slowdown. It might have been in turn 1, but that sent him all the way down the order.
The Argy-Bargy there had to second Giancarlo Schooler. Schooler started this race in 20th spot. He's up 6 positions on the opening lap. That is a strong, strong start, to say the least. And up out of the final corner for the first lap, Pilata leads the way there, Connor. Pretty clean lap, all things considered.
Yeah, other than one spin, that was pretty much it. And it's going to be pretty interesting to watch Jack Chrissy. It's not a sprint race. He has a full hour pretty much to make this all up. And it starts with this pass right here, trying to make it on Darian Taggart. I'm interested to see how far he can get through the field.
Into turn 1, Chrissy gets by Taggart and goes for a dive on Chris Harp. And Harp bails out of the way. He was on the brakes perhaps a little bit early there.
Yeah, visually it looked like a dive, then we got to the corner and he made the corner perfectly. I was like, oh wait, that's not a dive. That was pretty stunning.
Made it work. Here's Mike Leader in the 9th spot in the number 53. Rash of Lamborghinis, Porsche, and the 5th place Ferrari of Robert Porter just ahead. Missed the apex there. Has to get back on throttle to get the car to rotate. He carries it all the way to that DRS sign, which of course is the track limit there at the exit of turn 4.
It seems like no one's really been caught out by that just yet, but it's only a matter of time until people start pushing the boundaries. Also, the tires getting worn. You might accidentally push your boundaries a little bit too much just because you're not used to what the tires will do when they get a little bit too worn.
Adam Koback, number 85, grabs a spot from Chris Harp in the number 8. Thought that Chris Harp was the Ferrari that slowed down earlier. It was actually Jonathan Crane. So I think I made a mistake misidentifying that white Ferrari. So Jonathan Crane was the driver early on the brakes in turn 1. Crossed the line to complete lap 2, and now here comes Matt Waldbaum with a big run on the race leader. Just a 10th between them, but he's going to stay in line into the first corner.
I think we're seeing the difference between either car or setup or maybe both, because Pilata was just, dead in the water there compared to the speed that Waldbaum had. Waldbaum had about 5 miles per hour on him into the turn.
It's actually one of the strengths of the Lamborghini GT3. Now, I remember when this car first came out and first launched here in the United States, it ran, I think it was the 2014 Rolex 24 at Daytona or something like that. When this car released, it was actually faster than the GT Le Mans cars in a straight line. And it actually was a huge impact in the race. So one of the things that this car has always had in its back pocket in terms of overall strength is that straight line speed, and that continues to be the case here at Indianapolis.
Lewis Lacey, I think, is the first one to get a slowdown on that DRS sign. He's only going to give up 1 position for now, though. Mike Leader gets by him. That is for the 8th position. Everyone's still trying to single file out.
Yeah, there's Lewis in the number 43. There's Will Robbins just behind him. Again, you're really on throttle from the exit of the infield all the way to turn 1. So a lot of opportunity to slipstream here, and Robbins is going to do just that. But there's a battle closer to the front. Caleb Patry and Ken House-Seal for 3rd, and the 2 race leaders are going toe-to-toe at the front of the pack as well.
Yeah, Palau's going to have to do a lot of defending into turn number 1 as Adam Kovac comes out of pit lane, possibly had to serve a penalty bigger than we thought. But there's the dive. That's for 3rd place. Halcyon makes it work there. He's by Patrick.
And Will Robbins up the inside of the 43 spin. That's Mike Leader turned around backwards in turn 1. That's a bad spot to be stuck. It'll take him a minute to get that thing turned back around. Let's see how it all formulated here.
I wonder if that had to do with I think that had to do with the car coming out of the pit lane. He took the wide apex and he just didn't have the grip outside.
Yeah, I think he saw that car coming and just left too much room and then got out into the marbles there and looped it. Now, you might ask, why didn't the car leaving the pits cut the inside curb? Well, you can't. You actually have to join the racetrack prior to that curbing on the inside, which means that you're rejoining right into the racing line. It is a real challenging area. Meanwhile, there's Ryan Christoph. He's slowing down and serving a penalty. Also for running wide. Let's see what that looks like here, Connor. How wide do you have to run? Well, maybe in this case it wasn't, well, it couldn't have possibly been from that corner there. It didn't look like he had run all that wide. Maybe it was from somewhere else.
I don't know, he partially maybe cut the end of the turn 1 curve, but that's about all I could see. That was a very odd one.
Ryan Christoph in the number 46. A lot of experience in the SCCA.
Oh boy. We've actually missed the pass with a lead. Andrew Paul has actually lost a considerable amount of time in that wall bomb somewhere.
Yeah, let's see where that happened. This was early in the lap, and here's a look at it. Oh, it might have gotten a slowdown at the exit. Oh, right there. He cuts the shortcut there. Makes a mistake, loses that grip, and Waldbaum did indeed go through the lead. That snuck by us, and he's since put 1.4 seconds on Pilata, and now Pilata's under fire from Ken Alseal.
That was a very odd mistake, too. It looked like he just lost the front end, and that's an odd spot to lose the front end. Low-speed corner. You really don't need a lot to get through there with a decent amount of speed, but just completely lost it.
I think the challenge is this rear-engine Porsche really doesn't have a lot of front grip in slow-speed corners. Unless you're back on throttle, you shift that weight to the rear tires again. You really can't get the car to rotate in that circumstance, so I can see why it would understeer there. Porsches are known for having incredible dig out of corners, but sort of have terminal understeer in the middle of them if you don't set them up quite right. And there's Ken Alseal now tracking down Pilata for 2nd spot. But not even 10 minutes into this race, and Pilata looked to have, I wouldn't call it a commanding lead, but was at least up in control of the race, and now he's far from it. Although let's mention that he has gained 0.3 of a second back this lap.
Yeah, it's good. We saw how much of a liability he is in a straight line compared to the Lamborghini of Waldbaum, though. So it's going to be interesting to get back up to him because you're losing so much time in the turn 1. He's 2 miles per hour slower than Waldbaum was at the end, and now he's going to have to fend off Ken Halcyon for the same thing.
That might.
Quick note: I did see Wojtek Hadjasek had an off. He has a lot of damage. I think he got moved out of the way by Ryan Christoph, but they're all in a way. A lot of damage on Hadjasek, but he does continue.
To mention that I think Pilata's biggest issue right now is not the fact that he's lost the lead. It's the fact that he's got a similarly prepped car right behind him, that being Ken Halcyon. Not really any place to hide at the moment, and can't really just run the line that he wants to run. He's got to be concerned with that following trailing Lamborghini on that front straightaway. So that could be Pilata's Achilles heel here while he's trying to run down the race leader.
It does seem like he is visibly running down the race leader. It's just going to be so difficult to complete a pass because you're really working, for the most part, you're working hard around the infield of the track to make that pass happen, potentially into turn number 1. But with the disadvantage he's at, he's very rarely going to make that pass to even have an attempt at that pass into turn number 1. He has to find somewhere else to make his passes.
And Waldbaum's playing the game properly. Up on the front straightaway, we saw him diving to keep that draft broken. 1 second is just outside of the range that I would consider a usable draft. You see Robert Porter here on Caleb Patry. This is a battle for 4th. Here comes that sleek Italian Ferrari to the inside of the Raging Bull. That's for P4, and down the inside goes Porter, and he should take the spot away from Patry.
Patry's going to try hang around the outside. Can't do much with it, though. Really can't do that in turn 1. Don't know where Patry got front end damage. You can see the sort of the splitter of the car. I guess the undercarriage of the car is a bit damaged.
Get a good look at it. Yeah, you can see the nose, just the pointy end of that splitter. Certainly has seen some impact, but I wouldn't call that massively significant. He'll probably be all right. Did lose that ground to Porter, so potentially something there. There's Morgan Burkhardt and Todd Rushing behind. Burkhardt in the number 2 Lamborghini, and Todd Rushing in that silver and red Porsche in the backdrop.
Well, behind all these guys, got a Will Robbins sort of on his own, and then Lewis Lacey kind of leading a train here. 8th all the way back to around 12th with a lap in between.
There's the 43 holding back Tala Sadiq. And Giancarlo Schooler, who we documented, has climbed quite a few spots. Started all the way back in 20th and is up to 11th and continues to climb. And has 3 drivers in front of him. Oh, he catches the grass and spins it. Rejoining the oval, and he's going to back it into the fence. Couldn't quite jump on the brakes quick enough. And that is really easy to do here, Connor, just to dip a tire off just the slightest bit under power, right there.
Yep, just trying to get all you can out of it. The curb, you're so close to that curb. You're pretty much so close to getting home and getting the run you want. It only takes that little bit of a tire surface hitting the grass and you're done.
Yeah, did manage to pull out of it relatively okay. Here's Sadiq up the inside of the 43. That would put him into 9th. Jack Chrissy trails this in a battle for 10th. All the while, battle for the lead is stuck at just under 1 second. Although Pilata gained a bunch through middle of sector 1 that time through. Now it's down to 0.8 of a second as Darian Taggart and Chris Harp trade spots for 14th. Taggart, another mover that we have not really documented too much. He dropped backwards early in the race. Now he's back up to 14th.
Battle for 4th. Well, maybe not much of a battle. Looked like Patry had a run to go to the inside of Robert Porter. Thought better of it.
Ryan Christoph and Brian McRae. Everything's popping off here now. McRae in the orange Ferrari on the right-hand side of the screen.
Oh, and Sadiq's going to go around from 10th.
Trouble for the orange Porsche. How did he find himself in this situation? This is at the end of the back straightaway. And just gets in there too hot. And while all that was happening, as we go back live, you'll note Ryan Christoph is off. What happened to Christoph?
Trying to see what happened to him. Same exact corner, it looked like. The same exact thing. Just a little later, he almost hit him. Sadiq had to bail. That's the first time I've ever seen someone have to bail back onto the racetrack to avoid an incident.
Here's Patry and Porter into turn 1. Patry trying to go back by Porter, and he will do that. So move the 598 back into 4th, and the race lead is back under fire. Matt Waldbaum leads only by 0.3 of a second. It is far from over here at the pointy end of the field.
Loving this right now. You're seeing the two completely different cars, the 2 strengths and disadvantages going back at it. Both these drivers as well having to deal with the consequences of their car choices. Pilata's so good in the infield section, gained so much time, just so much better than a Lamborghini of Waldbaum. But on this straightaway and, on the oval section, you can see the weakness that he has is just top speed. So like we were talking about earlier, he has to figure out where to get the pass done in the infield and try to maintain it into turn number 1.
Yeah, that's the challenge, right, is he's faster in the area that's a little harder to pass. Real easy to rocket by somebody on a straightaway, a little bit harder to set up a pass in the infield, but he is there as Chris Harp and Giancarlo Schooler have had an issue. So let's briefly, I was going to do it, but now the battle for the lead is very, very tight, so I don't want to leave. Those 2 drivers have collided entering the back straightaway. Up front, though, here comes Pilata, and the draft should assist a pass for the lead here this time.
He's going to be alongside him here. Schooler and Harp kind of came together, but never mind that. The battle for the lead. Pilata dips out of a draft, but you see how much top speed he loses, but he's still going to have a look to the inside, as he will dive to the inside. Little loose under braking. They might make contact, almost do. Waldbaum stays strong, and now he has drivers left, but he can't hold it.
Really impressed with Pilata there. It looked like that car was going to brake way too deep and way too late. The car jerked to the right on the braking. He managed to hang around the outside and get by Matt Waldbaum for the race lead. So that was a power move by Andrew Pilata. Well done. Moves Waldbaum back to 2nd, and Ken House still lingering in 3rd as we go back to Porter, who dropped a spot to Patry and now has Patry's teammate Morgan Burkhardt right behind and ready to party. This is for 5th.
This is, I'm trying to think, I think this is the top Ferrari. Giancarlo Schooler has retired from the race. First retirement from the race, but this battle looks like Porter Ferrari had decent shorter run pace, but it seems like just as soon as he gained that pace, he's pretty much about to lose it here, and he's starting to lose multiple spots.
Really intense stuff right now. Porter dealing with pressure from behind, not only Burkhardt, but also Todd Rushing in the number 4 Porsche. Oh, that was a big cut by Burkhardt. Now that you might not be able to get away with that. I know you can cut that corner pretty massively, but that might have been too much.
Just still trying to look at the race lead because with the power of that Lamborghini, it's not quite over until he's fully out of a draft. You can see how big of a run Waldbaum gets. This is pretty much just strength. This is where he has to take advantage of his car's strengths here, but it looks like he's just going to stay behind Andrew Pilati. He lifted there.
Yeah, he lifted, and I think he knows that if he can stay within range of this 96 in the infield, he's got an easy pass that he can do at any point to retake the lead, but there's really no sense in doing that right now with 45 minutes to go. Look at this battle for fifth and a touch. Porter's going to spin at the exit of turn 2.
Kind of saw that coming. It's so difficult to go side by side through there. We saw the 2 leaders do it, but there's just really not a lot of room for 2 cars there in any situation.
Yeah, they almost had this sorted, but Porter right here is going to understeer just a touch and gets into the side of Burkhardt, and I think they might have a disagreement on exactly what happened there, but I think when Porter sees the replay, he'll probably understand. But in the moment, when you're looking out the cockpit, it always feels like the guy chops down on you.
Oh, they're definitely blaming each other, no doubt about that, but it's definitely a racing incident. You saw a little bit of a chop there, but it was really earned of a corner. And by the time the chop entering turn 2 was over, you already saw the understeer from the driver on the inside.
Yeah, and the guy on the outside, he has to make the corner too at some point. So
yeah.
there's definitely, there was room there and just kind of ran out. 2 cars came together. No big deal. They'll carry on. Andrew Pilati, though, with 15 minutes down, the lead really hasn't changed since the drop of the green flag in terms of overall order, but that's not telling the full story. These 2 have had quite the race already. But Waldbaum is trending the wrong direction and falling into the clutches of the 3rd place car.
Why I'm surprised he didn't take the run he did last lap, because while you can try to stay in his draft, the fact of the matter is Andrew Pilati has been really destroying him in the infield section, and really the Lamborghini's only advantage right now for Waldbaum specifically is on the oval section. You don't have a lot of oval section to work with, so you gotta make time there when you can. That's why I was just surprised he didn't take it when he had it last lap. So I wonder if he's gonna be regretting that decision or it's all by design.
On board with Ken Alseal, and you see Waldbaum is actually sticking fairly well with Pilati through at least the first couple of corners. I think it's the second half of the track where Pilati really begins to stretch the gap, especially on this run onto the back straightaway. That's where that Porsche excels, is digging out of those slow corners.
And you probably could have seen it visibly, last lap, as both Pilati and Ken Alseal were half a second faster than Matt Waldbaum. We haven't been talking about Alseal too much because it hasn't been involved with the race lead, but we talked about it early in qualifying. The top 3 in qualifying kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Right now we're seeing that.
Yeah, different zip codes for the top 3 compared to the rest of the field tonight.
It's as if the F1 had Bottas being as good as Verstappen and Hamilton.
I was going to make an F1 reference there for sure. Interesting note that Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we note Tala Sadiq's spin back here, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the only other FAA Grade 1 circuit in the United States other than Circuit of the Americas. So it is in unique company there, and Tala again struggling with the mid-corner grip. Yep.
Jack Chrissy just made a pass look easy. Got by Will Robbins. Didn't even have to wait until turn 1 to clear him there, so put him up to P7. I'm pretty sure he was the driver who spun at the beginning of the race, so this is a heck of a drive up through the field.
Was it Jack? It was Jack Chrissy, wasn't it? Man,
yes,
he has come a long way as Patrick goes the wrong direction. And this goes back to what I talked about at the beginning of the race, is we're expecting attrition not in the form of crashes, but in spins and going off course. And Patrick spins and does a good job getting off the track to stay out of the way, but will drop to 8th place.
Oh, Ken Alseal's just spun from 3rd.
Oh, trouble, and that's a tricky spot. I bet that he has probably put a tire on the grass on the braking zone.
Happened.
Yep.
I watched it immediately as I saw it. I knew it was going to happen, but he didn't do it. Yep, right there.
Man, that's a wild ride.
That was sort of a scary spin out of nowhere. He was still at a very high speed here. Maybe distracted by the lap car letting him go.
Well, he's just been using that rumble strip to brake. Yeah, it just snaps so fast on you. He's been using that rumble strip. We documented this in qualifying, how much track he was using, and I think it just was too much. I think he's got to back it down just a little bit as we go back to the race lead. With Waldbaum's pressure gone from the rear, he can focus out the front again, and he's got that 96 still within his clutches here.
See how much pressure he can put on Pilati in the infield section. It seems like he's trying to set up to stay as close as he can to get back onto the oval and have the run into turn number 1. And once he gets that run into turn number 1 and he's close enough, he will take it back.
Yeah, he's just trying to keep within, I think it's got to be within 3 or 4 car lengths coming up back onto the oval section. He's using as much racetrack as Pilata, but Pilata's Porsche just squats and accelerates so much better. Out of frame goes Waldbaum onto the back straightaway. Oh, trouble, and Pilata slow down at the exit of turn 4.
Oh, that is a huge slowdown. It didn't even, we talked about that. It does not even seem like he went that wide, but he did go through that DRS sign.
Yeah, that's a no-no zone right there. You cannot go out that far. So he makes contact with that sign. So that is what is ultimately going to cost Pilata the lead a second time. And 2 mistakes have taken Pilata out of the lead, and now it's going to swing back to Waldbaum's favor. And these two have swapped positions enough times now. I just don't actually know who's legitimately faster. I think Pilata a little bit, but Waldbaum's got that straightaway speed where he's able to overcome. But Pilata's got the infield section pace plus the slipstream still, so I don't think this is over.
Oh, it's not over by any means. It's just going to be a matter of getting back in a rhythm after that mistake. Frank Christoph, the second retiree from this race, no reason, just decided to pull it in. But I am interested to see how Pilata rebounds. He's made a few mistakes so far, and he's still in the race for the lead. But it's a matter of time until one of those mistakes takes you out of a race for the win. We just saw it happen with Ken Halseal. Unless something drastic happens, he's taken himself out of a race for the win. And between these two right now, it could easily be done by one of these guys.
Yeah, I think these guys, I would not say that they've been driving very conservatively. They both put themselves in sort of harm's way. Pilata, again, using a lot of racetrack. He's really found that limit and is trying to exploit it out to the very edge. But if he continues to do it, you know that he's confident that even if he loses the lead, he can at least gain it back. You can do that in the first 20 or 30 minutes of this 1-hour race, but by minute 40 or 50 rather, you're going to want to have that all buttoned up.
You want to set yourself up for the pit stop as well, because I believe these drivers will have to make at least one pit stop, so you want to get the best possible positioning that you can have for that pit stop.
And potentially under or overcut your way out of draft range as well. That would be handy.
Especially if you're Matt Waldbaum.
Right. I mean, if Waldbaum can get out of slipstream range, he might be in a good spot to drive away from Pilata. And on the flip side of that, if Pilata could put significant distance on Waldbaum, he wouldn't have to worry about Matt basically drafting by him at a moment's notice. But I do think the 96 is a stronger car between the two. Waldbaum seems stuck behind Pilata. Pilata's able to get right back to Waldbaum within a matter of laps.
And that's another problem. Waldbaum getting out of the slipstream for him would be pretty handy, but at the same time, wow, Pilata really sent it in there, really using his car to its full potential. But we've seen Pilata get out of the slipstream before, and his car is just so strong, and he's so strong as a driver, he's able to get right back into it like nothing happened. So it's going to be very difficult for Waldbaum to pull up a strategy that takes Pilata out of this race. I don't know if it's possible. I think the only thing that could take Pilata out of this race for the win is himself.
Meanwhile, for third place, Morgan Burkhardt and Todd Rushing are about to spawn a bit of a battle between themselves here. This is for third, the 2 and the 4.
Trying to look at Ken Halseal's progress. He's getting back up to Will Robbins for the 6th position. Jack Chrissy all the way up to the 5th position. Everything's going his way, and he has got a very fast car.
Yeah, Jack Chrissy has been one of the most impressive drivers in this race. If you look at the chart here, well, he started third. That does not tell the story. He fell all the way to dead last and has driven through the entire field already. And Giancarlo Schooler had done something similar until his retirement 8 laps ago, but Chrissy's been incredibly impressive and is running lap times last time by a 10th faster than the race leader. He might have been in position to lead and potentially win this race, but he's now 14 seconds back as we go back and watch Halseal go by Will Robbins here in the Porsche.
Very strong move there as he continues his climb back to the front, back onto the podium, but it has been impressive. You can pretty much see that car is so strong. If he just didn't make the mistake early, he would already be maybe in the podium spot, especially after Ken Halseal's off-road encounter. So he is very strong. Not over yet. You never know what could happen, but definitely one of the stronger cars in the field. Definitely a top 5 car.
Well, just imagine if he had been, kind of up here in the 2-car tango of Waldbaum and Pilata. Both of these drivers have made mistakes. Assuming that Jack Chrissy had not made another, he might actually have been leading this race. So pinching yourself and wishing you could do things over. That first lap aggression did not pay off for Patry, even though now he's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. I sense a lead change coming here, Connor. That 96 car is close.
Just don't think it's going to be into turn one. Unless he can get alongside before they start braking, I don't think he can make the move by just dive bombing. We saw him get around the outside through turn two. I don't know if he's close enough. He's definitely going to have a look, just not quite there.
168 miles an hour into turn one, all in the mail for sure. Morgan Burkhardt and Todd Rushing trading spots for third. I think that's what you were alluding to.
Yes, it was. And that was a pretty strong move. Rushing kind of made that look easy, cleared before the corner. So Rushing, that puts him onto the podium.
Good run for the number 4. We have not really talked a lot about Todd this year. He's been in the mix, but not this far forward. Certainly adapting to the GT3 platform, perhaps a bit better than GT4.
Last time by again, Pilata was only about 300ths faster than Jack Chrissy. So Chrissy, I can't say it's over quite yet. I know he's about 13 seconds back, but we still have so much time left and he's so fast.
Well, he's certainly going to have himself a battle for the podium spot, because you can see just up the road, that's Rushing and Burkhardt that are locked in that battle for that third and final step on the podium. I think Chrissy will have a pretty easy time getting there. It's going to be up to the 2 race leaders to see if there's any dramas there, to see if Chrissy will have any other opportunity. He is gaining ground, and there still is more than half this race remaining.
It's a good battle for third still. Broom Burkhardt tried a few over-unders there as David Thompson retires from the race. He's tried a few over-unders, but just can't quite make it work. But he'll have the slipstream through oval turn 1 and see if he can get that position back, or might just hang behind Todd Rushing.
Into turn 1, Pilata thought about it again. Didn't go for it, though. Into turn 1, he is so close. As we go back to third, here comes Burkhardt to try to go back by Todd Rushing, and pops out of line late on the straightaway. Here he comes up the inside.
A little sideways under braking, uses all the curb he can without sliding it. And I don't know if Rushing wanted to give it back to him. Might have just gone a little bit too wide, giving him room, thinking Burkhardt would overdrive the corner, but that's not what happened. Burkhardt back up into third.
And Chrissy closer than he was before.
Sorry, can now see a huge slide there. I'm still trying to track his progress back through, but that huge slide obviously overheated the tires. He's still putting up really good times at 25.7 last time by, but those tires have looked better, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, once you slide them around and overheat them, you get back on the horse, and you've got to be even more aggressive to gain the spots back that you lost, and that gets you in a really dangerous position. Kind of a full feedback loop, a positive feedback loop of overheating the tires and making the car angry and sliding around and doing more of the same. Now Pilata's within 0.2 of a second as we climb up onto the banking. This is as close as he's been. That Lamborghini, though, is so trimmed out that Pilata's not gaining a ton even in the draft here, but it's getting stronger and stronger every lap.
Crane's had a spin, but the race for the lead still goes on. Waldbaum looking to defend, not quite ready to do it. Pilata's going to have the inside if he wants it, but doesn't take it.
I think an important distinction is that Waldbaum knows that Pilata can't just drive by him on the front straightaway. That Lamborghini is too fast. So provided that he doesn't go defensive, he's not putting himself at a disadvantage through the next couple of corners because he put himself offline for the first turn. And that carries through the entire first sector. So Waldbaum has locked Pilata out of an easy move and will have to make him pass him somewhere else.
But it might be easy enough for Andrew Pilata to make that pass, because he's getting closer and closer through the infield section each and every lap. They are really pushing that exit there. They're pretty much hitting that DRS sign. If that was an actual sign, that thing would have been leveled and probably on the backstretch on the oval somewhere.
I think that's fair to say. Looking over the right shoulder of Andrew Pilata, this is a great view. Really working hard behind the wheel of this thing. This is a fun racetrack. I mean, it's not a track that you typically think about going to. It's not a track that you pick when you're testing by yourself just to have fun, but it really races fantastically. Gives you opportunities to gain and lose ground in very unique areas depending on what car you're driving. Brian McRae has had an issue in the number 20. He's in pit lane, making a pit stop, and I think we're going to see some of our scheduled stops right at the halfway point, Connor. That just makes mathematical sense, but we'll see if it makes sense for everybody to hit at lap or minute 30 or if they'll wait longer.
I think you're going to see a lot of drivers just push the fuel as far as it can go, which wouldn't surprise me. Just try to get the freshest tires to the end, which would personally be my call. I love overcuts. It's just something I'm addicted to. It could hurt me at times, but overcuts, I like being a guy who has the freshest tires to the end of the race, I think it's a smart decision to do.
Battle for fourth. Here comes Jack Chrissy on the outside of Todd Rushing. Chrissy uses all the racetrack and moves into fourth place. Now has third in his sights. That's Morgan Burkhardt just up the road.
That was impressive. Todd Rushing was trying to make the move on Burkhardt, so that wasn't even really a battle for the fourth position until it became one. Jack Chrissy kind of forced his way there, and he made it work around the outside turn two. That was impressive.
Yeah, he's not really lost time overall to the leaders, even doing all of this. So that just tells me that he's in a really good spot. Now, interesting to note, talking about, overcuts, undercuts, that sort of thing, Connor, I always like to eye, wear on and degradation in terms of lap times. Have a look at this. 0.7 of a second of fall off. That's a lot, actually. Typically, these Pirelli tires that are on these cars for GT3 machinery are really almost as good at the end of the stint as they are at the beginning of the stint. But you're seeing here the fall off is actually fairly significant. So there's a lot to gain. I don't think that you're going to actually go through the process to change tires here, though, Connor. I think you're just going to put fuel in the car. Tires take so long that you're just going to want to fuel it up and get out of the way.
It's a good point as well. The fuel is just going to be, obviously save you a bunch of time. Here's Pallotta really closed into turn one there, it's going to be interesting to see, because obviously if you go as long as you can, you're just going to take the splash of fuel to the least amount you can take, and you're going to be pretty much on your way. And I don't know if 0.7 of a second is going to be enough to kind of entice anyone to really try an undercut, because 0.7 is a decent amount in 20 or so laps, but you're not going to have a lot of time to get to the end. And obviously that 0.7 of a second fall off happened over 20 laps. If you pit and then the leaders pit about 4 laps after you, it's not going to make a big enough difference, in my opinion.
Morgan Burkhardt lost position to Jack Chrissy, and it happened like this at the exit of turn 2. Watch this big slide over correction, and here comes Chrissy through to take the spot. So Morgan Burkhardt was pushing, trying to hang on to it, just gave up.
Todd Rushing penalty, so he'll have to forfeit a few positions to Ken Alseal and Will Robbins, so put him back to the 7th position.
Yeah, that turn 4 exit getting a lot of people off guard. Even Alseal, cheeky cut there to try to utilize as much racetrack as possible. Waldbaum leads by 0.5 second over Andrew Pallotta, and Pallotta's sort of stalled here more than he did the first time, so that's interesting to note. Perhaps he's being a little harder on those front or rear tires than the number 1 at the moment.
I think it's a combination of both the front and rears. I think he's just using up the tires a little bit too much, maybe a little bit earlier than he probably should have, and it just does not seem like he can keep pace with Waldbaum in the infield section as much as he was earlier, and he's trying to stay in that slipstream, but once he loses too much of that slipstream, he might have to think about pitting.
He's still within striking distance, though, so he's not out of it. Just, I think I've noticed a lack or a sudden stoppage of the momentum that he had moving forward. As we go back to Ken Alseal, Will Robbins, Todd Rushing, all sort of on top of each other. Robbins chasing Alseal. Good parity between the Lamborghinis and the Porsches here, despite their what I would call an overpopulation of both of those manufacturers here today. They are racing very, very well together.
Very strong racing as well. All these drivers have done a considerable job. Trying to look at this line just all converging on each other, except Jack Chrissy's kind of pulled away from all of them after pretty much passing all of them. Just goes to show how strong of a run it's been. Morgan Burkhardt's been trying to keep up with him in that he's pulled away from Alseal and the rest.
Yeah, not a huge surprise to see Jack Chrissy pull away. We knew he was going to be fast. It really is a shame he's lost so much ground to Waldbaum and Pallotta. But if you look at this gap, 13.5 seconds, he spun out on lap 1 and dropped all the way down to 21st. The fact that he's only 13 seconds back is a real testament to the actual pace that he has had this race. And I'm still not confident in locking him out of a chance to win this race. With 26 minutes to go, a lot can happen here in the next couple laps. We are 24 laps in to an approximately 43-lap race. That is a lot of opportunities for the leaders to make mistakes or slow down.
Plenty of time to be gained here, no doubt about it. Nowhere close to over. Hell, with the mistakes these two leaders have made so far, and they've been racing pretty aggressively. Waldbaum just had a bit of a slide, actually, through one of the corners, so that's going to put Pallotta back all over him. You never know. It's never over until it's over.
No, and Waldbaum's a little wider at the exit of 4. Here's a look at the slide just a little bit. We'll go back a little further to catch the beginning of it, but just carried a bit too much speed in and kind of had a lateral moment there, and that is blood in the water to a driver chasing you down. Pilata knows that while his tires are beginning to bleed off, so are Waldbaum's, and Pilata a little bit behind in the steering there, but he is still within striking distance and close enough to be a factor all the way to the checkered if things stay as they are.
Invisibly, that slide doesn't look too bad, but it is very bad. Those tires are going to be screaming at Waldbaum for that move, and there's not much he can do about it. He kind of just has to ride it out and be as smooth as he can to get those tires back to a decent operating temperature. Just a little slide like that can make such a big difference between first and second.
Down the front straightaway, 168 miles an hour. Again, the VMAX for Pilata. And
that is
still nose to tail.
That is a visual right there. Two drivers on the track. You think they're at the back of the pack, no one's around them. No, those are the leaders.
Yeah, they're all on their own right now. 14 seconds ahead of Jack Chrissy. Jack Chrissy is losing a whole bunch of ground. Is he hitting pit lane? No, he just lost about a full second. Not exactly sure what that was all about.
These are just some of the fastest times we've seen from the leaders. Pilata ran a 25.1 last time by, which is only a 10th off of his fastest time of the race, which was all the way back on lap 3. Yeah. So he's really put on the afterburners.
Well, the draft is certainly helping that as well, and the car's lightening up with that fuel load. But not to take away any of the speed that he's gotten, and big pressure on Waldbaum into 7. But Waldbaum's not been cracking under pressure. We've seen Pilata crack under pressure twice, and Waldbaum only once. So it's definitely lopsided in Waldbaum's favor in terms of who's made less mistakes so far.
I just think it's smart driving by Waldbaum. He has no reason to defend. If he defends, it throws him off for an entire section, whether it's into turn 1 coming up soon or into turn 8. Defending just completely throws off your apexes for the about 5 turns on, so no reason to do it.
Also wonder about drivers trying to stretch it on fuel. Typically you'd see a limited fuel tank, a limited fuel capacity, but these cars are capable of running about an hour on fuel. I guess the question becomes, did they plan for that, or did they plan to make a stop?
Todd Rushing definitely planned to make a stop, as he's going to be one of the first front runners to enter pit lane.
Yeah, here he comes. And he'll throw some fuel in the car and get back out on the racetrack. Was running up inside the top 5, so or just outside of it, rather. I think after that slowdown, he was just outside. Ken Houseel and Will Robbins, these two have been kind of tit for tat so far. They have not really separated once Houseel got back by Robbins. And think about Ken's frustration running in 3rd, dropping out of the podium spot and being stuck here now. And big understeer at the beginning of the left-hander. It's got to be frustrating to get stuck there.
It seems like all the tires are gone. He has no fronts to make the corner, and he has no rears to get out of the corner. So just that slide has completely thrown his rhythm off, and it seems like he won't be able to recover, especially since we'd like to see him take tires. It's going to be difficult to overcome that.
Yeah, I really don't think you're going to see anybody take tires. Rushing might have. He's spent a long time in pit lane. I don't think that's the move, though. I think you're going to give up way too much time doing that. And is the car up on the jacks? Doesn't look like it, but he might have already taken the tires. There he goes, out of the box. And here come the race leaders down the front straight to put Todd a lap down.
The Todd Rushing speed, I think he went too early. He got to about 65 on pit exit. I'm hoping he didn't speed exiting, because that would pretty much end his race.
At least competitively, it certainly would. Wow, Pilata is so close. He is hounding Matt Waldbaum. And how cool under pressure is the one. I mean, we've talked about it at length, but Matt has just been rock solid here despite Pilata filling the mirrors for the last 20 or so minutes.
And even despite the slides that we've seen Waldbaum have, he's been able to keep his Lamborghini in the right spots, especially in the infield section where he needs to. So it's been a very strong drive so far. And if he just gets one pit sequence, pretty much perfect, he's going to have a really good shot at getting this race win.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, he slid the car around a whole bunch. And these GT3 cars, with the traction control that they have, you can lean on that traction control, and it will actually make you faster. The problem is if you go beyond a certain angle, slip angle, it will hurt you immensely, and you'll lose control and crash. And it seems like Matt has found a couple times this race the limit of traction and is able to ride that limit without massively impacting his speed. So he's found the edge of control and is sitting right at it, and that's why he's been so fast.
No doubt about it. He's been very consistent. Hala Sadiq is the latest retiree from the field. Just kind of rolled into pit lane and called it a day. I think that leaves around 16 drivers left in the field, and some of them coming down pit lane. A lot of the front runners actually 3rd through maybe 7th. Chrissy, Burkhardt, Houseel, Robbins, Caleb Patry, all in this time.
Yeah, so Chrissy coming in is an interesting revelation because he's going to undercut the race leaders. Not sure how much it's going to matter. What we're going to find out here as the race leaders continue to battle. And for Pilata, I'm not sure that he's straight up faster enough than the one to just go out and take the lead. I think Pilata is doing the right thing by staying in behind the one and utilizing the slipstream to save fuel, and just because he's going faster drafting the one than if he was all on his own.
I think one thing is that on newer tires, he knows he had a big advantage on wall bomb, even with the disadvantage on the straights. He was so much faster and able to gain wherever he really wanted to. So I don't think there's any reason to really do any crazy strategy. I don't think he needs to do a crazy strategy to go for the race win. And I think he is going to still try to undercut Walt Bomb. Not try to, he will undercut him.
Here it comes onto pit lane now. I love riding on board to see how hard they're going to charge this entry down to pit road speed and into the pit lane. Nicely done by Andrew Pilata. Here's Darian Taggart and Mike Leader. This is a battle for 5th.
Taggart made his way through the field quite nicely so far, up into the top 10 last time by. That was before getting past the leaders from pit, which should be around the 5th position.
Yeah, top 6 have not yet made their way to pit lane, with the exception of Pilata, who is currently on pit lane.
This could be trouble for the race leader because we saw it's going to be a little difficult for him, I think, to get that lead back if he does lose the lead on pit lane as Leader and Taggart come in. Lacey as well.
Yeah, Waldbaum all by himself. Robert Porter continues on the racetrack. Andrew Pilata is out with a 48-second stint through pit lane, a 14.7-second pit stop, which is the shortest pit stop we've seen of anybody so far, and a full second quicker than Jack Chrissy. And you almost have to wonder, is the calculation right? Did you put enough fuel in it? That's a pretty big concern here when you're trying to save time. But if he was able to short fuel and get it right to the limit, then he might have gained enough ground on Matt Waldbaum to actually leapfrog him, as Waldbaum is now going to finally hit pit lane.
Just noticed Waldbaum had a little bit of front-end damage. I think he actually got that from the turn 1 curb a few laps ago. I don't think it's been affecting him, obviously, but something to note at least. We'll have to see how good his pit stop is here and see how much time he loses or maybe gains on Andrew Pilata.
Well, his entry was way more aggressive, and he gained, I think, a bunch of time on Pilata entering the pit lane. We'll see if that translates to time on the racetrack. Where is Pilata right now? He's working his way back onto the oval section, so Waldbaum is only going to have about 15 seconds to get fuel in this car. In theory, he could fuel just a little. Well, he's going to have to fuel the same amount regardless, but
oh boy, this is going to be tough too, because if he comes out right next to Pilata, he's going to pretty much be in the action immediately.
He might have. Well, 15 seconds flat. Here comes Andrew Pilata down the front straightaway. I think Waldbaum's going to beat him out, but will they go into turn 1 side by side? No, Waldbaum gets there first, and the gap will remain. But
full tires. Well,
their tires should be the same tires, so that's going to make a huge difference. But now they're both in traffic. That could throw a wrench into things.
This is Jonathan Crane, who's really been struggling tonight, 3 laps down, just trying to find a way to get out of the way. Just barely gets out of the way of Waldbaum there.
Waldbaum understeering. You can hear Pilata jumping on the throttle to try to get the car to rotate. So close. A 1/10.5 between him with 17 minutes to go. This has been an epic battle this race. And these front 2 have been relentless at the top of the order.
I think Pilata's going to kind of want to get on with it, unless his strategy is to save fuel, because we saw a short fuel load. It seemed like a shorter fuel load for both these drivers. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if these drivers are good on fuel. Not sure what Pilata's strategy is, or Waldbaum, but you never quite know.
I think Waldbaum in particular is better at turn number 11. Gets up onto the straightaway a lot better and carries more speed there, which delays even further the progress from the 96. On board now as we climb the banking. Meanwhile, Jack Chrissy did lose a couple seconds in that pit sequence, but still remains third. Pilata, 169 miles an hour into turn 1, closes on the brakes, really aggressive into turn 1.
just not aggressive enough to be able to make a look or anything. It just seems like Pallotta's so much better in this first sector until they get to the back straight, and then it kind of moves back to the favor of Matt Waldbaum.
So close at the front of the field here. These two in lockstep with one another. Last race of the season, nothing on the line in terms of points or prizing. But this has been one of the fiercest and most unpredictable races of the season. Here comes Pallotta now with a big run, but nowhere to go with it. This is a hard place to make a pass in the infield section. You're just kind of hoping that Waldbaum will make a mistake, but you can't count on that. He has not done a lot of mistake making tonight.
You're going to have to find a way to figure out sort of a calculation or some sort of formula to make the pass work, and I think he just found it there. Just drive a better entry and exit, especially at a turn 11 there. He's going to be all over Matt Waldbaum here, and he should have at least a look in the turn 1.
Yeah, this is where Waldbaum will have to get defensive. I don't think he can leave the inside open at this point.
We saw him leave the inside the last time he got past, and Pallotta was able to rock it around the outside.
Here they go. Waldbaum goes defensive. Pallotta is going to have to swing to the driver's left, and he will do so. Into turn 1 now. Waldbaum chases over, cheats to the driving line just a little bit, but a strong defensive line will put him offline for turn 2, but Pallotta can't make it work.
And that's, I think Waldbaum just learned something there. If he just takes that defensive line, there's not much Andrew Pallotta can do. He didn't defend. Pallotta was able to stay to the inside, which turned to the outside in turn 2, but Pallotta made it work. That time, Waldbaum went defensive. Pallotta tried to stick around the outside, but you really can't do that, or else you'll either turn him in turn 2 or have to lift and lose a lot of time.
Well, and I think the key to that is, Waldbaum, yeah, he learned that the defensive line works, but he only learned that it worked because he didn't blow turn 1 in the process. He was able to slow the car down enough to where taking that shallow entry didn't cost him anything on exit. If Pallotta was fully alongside and was able to brake at the same point, then you're going to have a side-by-side battle. Remember, the last time that happened, Pallotta won that battle, even on the outside heading into turn number 2. So there is a chess match happening here with how late you brake and whether or not you're compromising your exit to gain time on entry.
I think Pallotta's going to try to be a little braver on the brakes. I don't know, after seeing how easily Waldbaum defended that, I'm not sure how many realistic chances Pallotta's really going to have to make that pass.
See, he's building a run here, but it's just not going to be close enough. He's going to have a look, and that's more than he's been doing lately. There's a look, a little bit on the brakes.
Ooh.
Car wobbling just a bit there on the binder, so I think that the car's a little uneasy. He's pushing it further and harder now than he was previously.
Darren Taggart's withdrawn from the race, losing cars here and there, but this battle is definitely going to be sort of one for the ages in a way, because this has been a classic sort of little bit of a battle of attrition, but maybe a little bit of a battle of minds as well.
Been really, really impressed with both of these drivers tonight, both rebounding from mistakes and driving at a very high level and very cleanly as well. They have not laid a finger on each other all night long, which is great to see. I don't want to jinx it, though. We've still got a lot of racing left.
This is as close as Pallotta's been in a turn 8. Wondering if he even wants to look here. I don't think so. I don't think he wants to even attempt to move into turn 8. That's a last-ditch effort if he ever does.
I think you only really do that if you actually had a realistic shot of being alongside. If you can put Waldbaum offline, fantastic. If you don't realistically have a shot of going into that corner side by side, you shouldn't put yourself offline, because it's such a rhythmic section. You're forced to compromise every corner after that if you put yourself in offline. So only make that move if you're sure you can get it to stick. Otherwise, I think you aim for turn 1. And here's another really strong run by Pallotta. Waldbaum sees it coming and goes defensive.
There's not much else he can do. But what does Pallotta do differently here? Does he pinch him to the inside? I don't think he's going to have the opportunity. Waldbaum trying to move him up. Pallotta does pinch a little bit. We'll see if that affects him.
That's going to help a lot. Here he comes around the outside through turn 1. Now he's going to have the inside for turn 2. It's a tighter radius there, though, and Waldbaum will be able to throttle out. Now has the inside for turn 3, and will carry on and continue. So Pallotta a little bit better that time, but you really want drivers right into turn 1.
But you know he's not going to get it unless he forces it there. He's going to go to the inside here. He has to back out, but he forced Waldbaum wide. Now they're side by side.
That was really optimistic there by Pallotta. That was a hint of desperation in the driving style there. And he got throttled down so much better than Waldbaum that time through. Now this is that turn 8 situation, Connor, where if you can put him offline, do so. Waldbaum's going to come back over in front of him, though, and force him to brake early.
With the lack of power from Palada's Porsche, just he cannot maintain that run he had. He played that pretty much perfectly. Very optimistic move, but it was in a way the right move. Put Wallbomb wide, forced them offline, and had a run, but the car just limited his capability.
To be fair, they didn't, I don't think they touched. They did a
Well,
really
they did.
good job. I mean, Wallbomb made sure that they weren't. I think had he not left space, there would have been an issue there. But Palada definitely pushing the issue at this point. With 10 minutes to go, you got to start taking chances. I'm not sure that's the chance I would have taken, but Connor, I agree with you. That was a pretty gutsy and overall a good move. I do think it cost him a little bit here, though, this lap at least.
I don't know if it cost. I don't know. It's hard to say. It cost him when he had a realistic shot at the lead. I know what you're saying, but it's just you never know how many more chances you're gonna get. And he had such a great chance. He had the run down into turn number 8, but once again, that Porsche just does not have the power to compete with the Lamborghini. We'll see if he tries it again this time. But I don't think he'll be able to have positioning, not even close this time. But I think it's another thing that he's learned that he has in his arsenal if he needs it.
Well, Palada's been taking swings, and Wallbomb has been taking them to the gut so far, but I think Palada's going to have to land a death blow here at some point, because with 10 minutes left, you're talking about 7 laps or so, Connor. The opportunities are beginning to dwindle, and I think that's why we saw some of the desperation start to creep in. You're not going to get unlimited opportunities. There is some traffic up the road, not a ton of it, but there is some that could affect Wallbomb's pace here, and you're going to have to jump on it if you're Palada.
Luckily, there's not too many battles on the track. There is a good one. Robert Porter, Caleb Patry for 7th. Patry went a little wide, so they'll widen out a little bit as Palada still tries to get close enough to Wallbomb to have a look. Just not close enough this time.
Up onto the front straightaway. 0.3 is the difference. This has been the closest battle on the racetrack the last 5 or 6 laps. We'll take you to the other battles should some formulate. You see a couple cars ahead. I think that's Chris Harp, the silver and black Porsche. And now it's just chipping away again. Palada has been doing this the last couple laps, chipping away 100th by 100th until you're within striking distance, and then you take the stabs and the jousts to try to, one car spun in front of him. Was that Jonathan Crane? It was.
Yes, it was.
Right in front of the leaders, and that checked up Wallbomb just enough to bring Palada back into the mix here.
No, Wallbomb went defensive into turn 6. I think he saw something brewing there he didn't like, so he made sure Palada didn't have even a shot at making that attempt.
Well, that brings the 96 in even closer. And this is where you have to plan ahead. Again, he's setting himself up for a move that's about 1.5 miles away from here. So it's a long ways off. But it's all about setting up the driver ahead of you. Good run through the middle here.
He's got to hold it through 10 and 11. And it looks like he's going to do just that.
Oh, really solid drive off the corner. That's where Wallbomb's been beating him, but a solid car length between them now as they climb up onto the banking. And Palada closes just a little bit at a time. Now he should have enough momentum here to get fully alongside Wallbomb and better control how they go off into the corner. Wallbomb's going to stay far right, and Palada does not have to move back over. He's going to try to hold steady here in the middle of the racetrack. This is going to get very Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton-y down into turn 1 here, I think.
Wallbomb goes back to get the best apex. Palada has the nose ahead. Wallbomb uses the curbing, and he has the advantage. Palada tries to hang it in there, just does not have the grip on the inside and 2.
Yeah, it's just so hard to maintain the inside run through that second corner when there's so much extra pavement there, but Palada chipping away and forcing Wallbomb to think defensively and drive out the mirror, and that alone is helping Palada's progress here.
Thinking how many more attempts he's going to have at that. Oh, he took a very optimistic look to the inside there. I don't think that was a smart decision to try that in 7. He's going to have to gain even more time back. Yeah,
that's sort of the most port move, I think, when the track opens up and a driver swings out wide to kind of arc in a corner. And there's always an opportunity to jam it up the inside. That never really ends well. I think you got to plan a bit more meticulously for that kind of maneuver. Trouble in the background. Robert Porter has found his way off track, and I think there was some contact here potentially. He was in the middle of a battle with, I think it was Caleb Patry. No contact, just spins.
Just a little bit of a crossover, tried to defend it, could not do it. Battle for the lead. Palada, he actually didn't have to gain much time back. He might have another look. Back-to-back laps for the first time.
Here we go. Same thing again. He's going to have to go to drivers. Oh, he's going to stay in behind this time. And Wallbomb is going to stay defensive. Now he's going to sweep out to the left. and take a really wide line into the corner.
Oh boy, he might have something here. He's going to get the crossover.
Well,
I don't think he has to run.
Oh, he has a slowdown too.
Ah.
Yeah, that's going to cost him. That might be the race already. That's a huge slowdown. Where did he get it?
Oh, wall bomb almost hit Chris Harp, who spun in front of him. That could have been drastic as well, but wall bomb missed him.
I didn't really see anything egregious about that. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But either way, 3.5 seconds now is the difference. I mean, that had to be it, right? A slowdown cutting the exit of the turn 1 curb, but he was barely 2 tires off there, Connor. That's not a consistent penalty in my eye.
Yeah, that's just weird how they call that turn 1 curb. If you pretty much use the entirety of it, it's not a penalty, but if you just use the last portion of it, I guess it's a penalty. I've seen that call before. I don't understand it, but that is how it works. Yeah,
I'm not in fan or in favor of that particular area of the racetrack being governed to that, meticulous last inch. That is a realistic and fair line I think Pilata took. I don't think he would have gained any time from that, but yet he had to give up 3.5 seconds worth of time, assuming that's what happened there, and it wasn't a hardware-related issue. But 5 minutes left, and Matt Waldbaum leads this race. I feel a little bit cheated from the battle. I think that was heating up, but we have to give Waldbaum credit where credit is due. He was rock solid up front all night long.
Yeah, he stood the challenge for pretty much an hour. He's been in a heated battle with Pilata for the race lead this entire race. And even through pit stops, he's been able to maintain it and stand strong. Even when pressured in, high pressure situations and corners you don't expect to be pressured in, he's been able to stand.
And with all that, in the background, here's Jack Chrissy. What a drive by Jack Chrissy. From 3rd down to 21st, back to 3rd. So after 39 laps of racing, he's back where he started. But that is not quite the whole story. It has just been an up, down, and up night for Jack Chrissy. I'm sure he would have loved a full course yellow to give himself an opportunity to go for the win. He continues to lap at a pace even a little bit quicker than Matt Waldbaum. I really think he would have had a realistic shot of winning this race had he had a better run tonight.
He was a full second faster than Waldbaum that time by, and obviously faster than Pilata the last time by, obviously. He had a very strong car. If he could have stayed in that slipstream early, just like trying to find a driver, just like Ken Alceo was, they could have all had a realistic shot. You could have had 4 drivers under a blanket.
Not the way it panned out this time. This track giveth and this track taketh away. Waldbaum across the start-finish line this time. Should be about 3 laps to go. Maybe 2. 3.6 seconds is the difference between the top 2 drivers.
And Waldbaum did extend that gap by about 1/10 and a half.
I think Pilata, I think he probably knows at this point that realistically the opportunities to go and run Waldbaum down are out the window at this point. Waldbaum, if he didn't crack under pressure the last 45 minutes, he's not going to crack all by himself at this point. So I think Pilata is just going to try to bring it home for second. A frustrating, I'm sure, a very frustrating way to end that race given the strength that he had and what we assume was a cut track penalty for what objectively is not a cut track. But we'll carry on and continue. Ken Alceo, also a nice recovery. And Will Robbins, we have not really talked a whole lot about Will tonight, but a solid top 5 looming in the distance for him with 2.5 minutes to go.
He's been consistent all night, really no incidents whatsoever, just kept the car clean and kept it on track and has gotten some few positions here and there, climbed from 10th all the way up to 5th. And it's been a pretty solid, pretty quiet drive, but a very solid drive nonetheless.
Similar one for Morgan Burkhardt, 9th to 6th, and had some good battles to speak of. Caleb Patchery down 2 spots from 5th to 7th. Robert Porter down 1. A couple issues tonight keeping him from running a little higher up the grid. Mike Leader down 1 spot, and Todd Rushing was in position for a top 5, but things have kind of slid away from him in the trailing moments here at the Indianapolis road course.
I think he was the only driver to take tires. I think that's where he went wrong, and it just has not panned out for him. He might be able to get the Mike Leader. We'll have to see. Well, it was not fast enough to get by him last time.
You're definitely right about him being the only one to take tires, other than I think Hadjisek also took tires in the 74. That was not really ever going to be the strategy. I think that was a mistake, or it was, well, I guess a mistake from strategy, or a mistake of meaning that he clicked the button and didn't mean to click the button, because that's, if you've run GT3 cars here in iRacing, you're fairly familiar with double stinting the tires. You really don't ever take tires on a single stint strategy. It's not really the way to make these things go fast.
Yeah, you're pretty much throwing away time if you take tires that consistently.
I mean, the tires just last a lot longer than, in terms of the wear, they might wear out, but you're not losing pace, at least not enough to justify the extended length of time it takes to change all 4 tires. This is not a NASCAR pit stop. These take, a minute and a half or so to do. So there's not really a lot to gain on a single stint. 2 or 3 stints, you want to do it just because you're going to blow your tires out. Otherwise, you're going to want to keep it just to fuel only. All right, white flag one more time around here at Indianapolis. Matt Waldbaum in command. Andrew Pilata has gained some of that time back, 2.4 seconds. But it's looking like Matt Waldbaum is going to hold on as long as he can finish out this lap. Remember, he was the fastest in practice and was almost the fastest in qualifying until the final moments. And in this race, I thought the 96 was the faster car, Connor, but at the end of the race, they don't always give the checkered flag to the car that was fastest on paper. And fastest on paper wasn't even Matt Waldbaum. I think it was actually Jack Chrissy with a 1:24.914. So that's another interesting stat to throw into the mix.
And I think Pilata was a little bit stronger. I think if he did get the lead away, he might have been able to pull away at a certain point. But Matt Waldbaum was just more consistent and just very strong in defense. And it just showed how many laps he had to endure, constant charges into turn 1 and even into turn 6 by Andrew Pilata at times. It was very strong driving, very impressive to see him not crack under the pressure.
Andrew Pilata did his best this race. He put everything on the table that he could for Matt Waldbaum. A couple mistakes too many, though, for the driver of the number 96 Porsche. For Matt Waldbaum, though, not a lot of mistakes, and in the closing moments withstood pressure that could make diamonds. Put Matt Waldbaum in the number 1. He will come out of the final corner. Checkered flag in the final race of the season for the WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League. Matt Waldbaum gets it done at Indianapolis, and Andrew Pilata comes home a disappointing second, 2.2 seconds back. And Jack Chrissy, a podium. This has got to be a hard-earned one for him. He's got to be sweating under that number 6 helmet right now.
Started third, finished third. On paper, it's not much, but it's anything but.
Ken Alseal comes home in 4th place. In 5th, here comes the number 35 of Will Robbins. He will round out the rest of your top 5. Morgan Burkhart, Caleb Patchering, Robert Porter, Mike Leader, and Todd Rushing. The rest of your top 10 here at Indianapolis as the checkered flag flies. Connor, that was a really, really fun race. This track race is so much better than everyone always thinks it does. This track always slips my mind when it comes to picking tracks for schedules, but every time we come here, whether it be in a stock car or a sports car or an Indy car for that matter, it always puts on a good show.
Definitely an underrated one. I think that's mainly because it's not an updated version of the track, and just a lot of people don't really bat an eye to it because of that, but it's very thrilling racing, and it was very thrilling today from the front to the back. A lot of compelling battles. Field cheated out of a battle for the win, but it was still a great battle between Waldbaum and Andrew Pilata.
Have to agree with that. I think we had potential for a really exciting sprint to the finish. Didn't quite pan out that way, but sometimes that's how racing goes. Waldbaum gets it done. He wins. 2.2 seconds back. Pilata, Chrissy, Alseal, Robbins, your top 5. Burkhart, Patry, Porter, Leader, and Rushing the rest of the top 10, followed by Louis Alessi, Chris Harp, Wojciech Hadusek, Adam Kobach, Jonathan Crane, and Darian Taggart. And there were a few more stragglers. There they are. Tala Sadiq, Brian McRae, David Thompson, Christoph, and Giancarlo Schooler, all drivers with issues in this race that didn't quite pan out the way that they were hoping. In a minute, we're going to talk to Matt Waldbaum, Andrew Pilata, as well as Jack Chrissy. Want to talk to all 3 of our podium finishers one last time before the end of the season. But Connor, debrief on the year, a fun one. We're going to do more in 2022, and I think the TCRs are on that list.
TCR is going to be a blast, but it was a big blast with the GT4. We saw a little bit of attrition at times, but very consistent, good racing at the front of the pack. It seemed like it was always DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, and Pilata battling for 4 wins, from Road Atlanta all the way to the end at the Hungaroring. We saw those drivers kind of rise to the occasion, and we saw Matt Waldbaum at the very end with that win at the Hungaroring kind of come into his own and, kind of break through and beat Alessandrini. Someone over than Darling beating Alessandrini. It was a very interesting season from start to finish. A lot of great racing, a lot of great battles, and I'm excited to see more of it, no doubt about it.
Well, speaking of rising to the occasion, 2 weeks in a row, Matt Waldbaum stands in the top of victory lane. Matt, this race did not come easy. A hard-fought battle there with Andrew Pilata. He beat you in qualifying by just a couple thousandths of a second. Then in the race, it was a dogfight between you two all the way down to the last couple laps, and then it suddenly got way easier. Take us through those last couple laps and that battle you had with Andrew all race long.
Yeah, the battle was a ton of fun. I think we definitely had different strategies in terms of setup. He seemed to be a little bit more high downforce, so he was quicker in the middle of the lap, and then I'd be able to kind of pull away or stick right with him on the straights. I actually missed what happened to him. I haven't gone back to see if he got a little loose or if he had a cut penalty, but then I was just trying to make sure I didn't do something silly to get it home.
Well, I think if you go back and look at the cut penalty, you'd be shocked, as shocked as we were that it even was a cut penalty. Got nipped in turn one for arguably staying almost entirely on the racetrack. So it was a little bit of a disappointment from the spectators' perspective, not getting to see that epic battle come all the way down to the wire, but certainly a hard-earned victory, Matt. Congratulations. Fun transition to the GT3 cars. And what about this track? Doesn't it race great?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. I think if DJ were here, he would tell you this is another track that I'm good at because people don't like, but luckily Halo Infinite has attracted a bit too much of his attention, so he hasn't been around a little bit. Yeah,
this track just races really good. It's not one that you typically think about, but every time we've come here, it always puts on a show, and so did you, Matt. Congratulations. Winner 2 weeks in a row here at the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. Hopefully we'll see you around next season for some touring car action and potentially some Mustangs as well. We'll see you around.
Yep, thanks, Kyle.
Move on now to our third place finisher, Jack Chrissy, in the number 6. Jack, tonight, the stats say that you started third and you finished third, but that does not tell us the whole story of your night. I'm sure you've got to be exhausted. Take us through your battle.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun race. I have to say, spinning out there, I was bummed, but it made the race 10 times more fun. I'd have to say, having to come drive back through the field. But yeah, I think had some luck with some passes. Had some good battles with some of the guys up through. I think Morgan and Dan or Don. Sorry. But yeah, those guys had a little bit of a fight, which was kind of fun, and I think I got a little bit lucky that Ken spun. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of nice to see that I was able to kind of hold pace with the guys in front, at least.
Well, it ended up being a really entertaining battle. Is there, I know you overall you got to be pretty happy with your performance. Is there a little bit of regrets on how that first lap went, just looking at the perspective of you were faster than the leader for the majority of the race after that spin?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ifs or ands or buts and stuff like that, and you kind of can't look at it too much. I think it kind of sucks that I spun it. It was kind of a dumb move. I was under pressure from Ken, and I wanted to kind of keep the position and totally missed my braking zone, so it happens. I just need to clean up my my race a little bit, and I think next time I can be up there and be with those guys, but it is what it is.
All right, well, a strong run for you, Jack. Congratulations. We'll see you next season. I think there's some touring cars on the horizon as well, so hopefully we'll see you around for that. Congratulations on the podium.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
All right, Connor, wrapping things up here from Indianapolis. Final thoughts. This was a fantastic season, and I just love this place. Can't wait to come back. Not solidified plans for the cars and tracks for next season, as I understand it, but I know touring cars and the Ford Mustang FR500S on the short list of things that will happen next season. Exciting things to come in 2022.
I think this track should be on the short list, whether it gets the update or not by then. It's just a very thrilling track. Surprising to me, no doubt about it. I didn't expect it to race the way it did, but I think it was kind of aided by the two differing strategies from cars. Wallbaum, sort of the low downforce, very high speed car, and then Halada went with going for faster in the infield section, but sacrificed a lot down the straightaway. So that was very interesting, the race for the win unfolding. But all in all, great season. Like we said earlier, a lot of great action from the first race to this race, and I'm excited for more next year. All
right, 2022 coming up in just a couple of weeks. Happy holidays to everybody, whatever you celebrate, and we'll see you on the other side. First things first, on January 2nd, the return of the Indy Elite Series. IndyCar action, open wheel racing returns to SimTV, followed by of course, the Outsider Racing League in February. That will return with the Class B cars from Daytona. Big production behind that event. We'll see you there in February. And then the DC Region SCCA, when it returns, will be live here on SimTV. We'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Kyle Heyer alongside Connor Horn, and we'll see you next time.